If you really want to understand the story of modern China, you've got to think of it like a giant pendulum, one that's been swinging wildly between total political control and economic freedom. Today, we're going to look at that history and the man who's trying to pin that pendulum in place for good.
I mean, it really all boils down to this one single fascinating question. How on earth has one party managed to rule 1.4 billion people for more than 75 years?
Well, the answer is this constant high-stakes balancing act. On one side of the scale, you have this non-negotiable demand for absolute political control. On the other, there's the need to deliver economic prosperity, to prove you even have the right to rule. Seriously, the entire history of the People's Republic of China is the story of this tension.
And that story? It kicks off with the pendulum's most violent swings imaginable, from the fire of pure ideological revolution to the cold pragmatism of radical economic reform.
And this is the man who started it all, Mao Zedong. For him, there was no pendulum. It was supposed to be fixed, permanently, on the side of ideology. He believed that constant revolution wasn't just a way to get power. It was the whole point of the state itself.
So what's so critical to understand here is that Mao tried to run an economy like he ran a war. He genuinely believed that revolutionary passion and just sheer numbers of people could somehow replace things like, capital and expertise. He mobilized the entire country to make steel in backyard furnaces.
The result wasn't an economic miracle. It was one of the worst man-made catastrophes in human history. With farmers busy making useless steel instead of farming and officials lying about their harvest to look good, the country literally starved. This was the cost of pure ideology.
After Mao died, that pendulum just swung, wham, violently, all the way to the other side. Deng Xiaoping, a guy who'd been purged by Mao twice, came to power with a completely different worldview. He couldn't care less if an idea was ideologically correct, he just cared if it worked.
And this slide really breaks down his New Deal for China. He tore down the old system, opened up these special economic zones to the world, and basically unleashed the market. He made a grand bargain with the Chinese people, and it went like this. We, the party, will make you rich. In exchange, you, the people, will stay out of politics. Period.
And then came 1989. When students gathered in Tiananmen Square demanding political freedom, the parties showed the entire world just how serious it was about those terms. The crackdown was a brutal, bloody message. Economic freedom? Sure. Political freedom? Absolutely not. So, with the rules of the game now made brutally clear, a whole new generation of leaders, the technocrats, took the stage. Their job was to manage Deng's model, and it was like walking this incredible tightrope between insane economic growth and the hidden crises that were bubbling up right underneath.
See, the last thing anyone wanted was another strong man like Mao. So to stop that from happening, they designed this system of collective leadership. Power was basically shared between competing groups within the party. The whole idea was to make sure things were stable and predictable. And for a couple of decades, it kinda worked.
Then, in 2001, China joins the World Trade Organization, and the economic engine just goes into hyperdrive. The growth was unbelievable. But, and this is the key part, there was a massive hidden cost. As the country got richer, corruption exploded, the gap between rich and poor became a chasm, and social unrest just skyrocketed. The party was actually facing a huge crisis of its own making.
Now, all that chaos, all that corruption, it created the perfect opening for a new, very different kind of leader. Enter Xi Jinping. His diagnosis was simple. The party was losing its grip. And his prescription was just as simple. Reassert total party control over everything and everyone.
You really can't understand Xi without understanding his own story. As a teenager, he watched his own father, a revolutionary hero, get publicly humiliated and purged. Xi himself was sent to a poor village to do backbreaking labor for years. That experience forged a core belief in him that any lack of discipline, any disloyalty, leads to chaos and total destruction.
So as soon as he got power, he moved methodically. It was like a three-step blueprint. First, he launched this massive anti-corruption campaign that, very conveniently, took out all his political rivals. Second, he had his own ideology written into the Constitution, putting himself on the same level as Mao. And third, he got rid of presidential term limits, making it possible for him to rule for life. Just like that, the era of collective leadership was over.
And that brings us right up to today, to what Xi calls the new era. It's a whole new playbook for China, one that fuses cutting-edge technology with that old-school absolute state control. And you can see it most clearly in the digital tools the state has now.
This is the name for it.
Techno-authoritarian state capitalism. Yeah, it's a mouthful, but the idea is pretty straightforward. The goal isn't just to get rich anymore, it's about taking all that economic power and using it for political control, to achieve the party's goals of tech independence, national security, and total social stability.
And honestly, nothing shows this new system in action better than artificial intelligence. Let's do a little test. Ask a Western AI about the Tiananmen Square crackdown, and you'll get a detailed history lesson. Ask a Chinese AI, and poof, the event is just gone, erased from history. The query gets blocked, or the AI just plays dumb.
Okay, what about Taiwan? Same deal. A Western model will explain the complex political situation, give you both sides. A Chinese model? It just spits out the official party line, word for word, calling reunification a sacred duty. It's not a tool for information, it's a digital propaganda machine.
And this is where it gets really chilling. Ask about human rights in Xinjiang. The Chinese AI will block you, but it'll happily tell you all about the wonderful vocational training centers, which is the state's name for internment camps. But here's the truly alarming part. Even Western AIs, when you ask them in Mandarin, can start repeating Beijing's propaganda. Why? Because their training data is getting flooded with state-sponsored narratives. This isn't just about controlling what people in China see. It's an attempt to shape what the entire world thinks.
So, where does all of this leave us? Well, it brings us to this fundamental paradox at the heart of China today.
Xi Jinping's ultimate goal has been to stop those wild swings of the past. He's grabbed that historical pendulum and tried to pin it in a new, fixed position, fusing absolute political control with incredible technological and economic power. And in the short term, it's created a level of stability and control that's pretty much unprecedented.
But, and this is the billion-dollar question, right? By getting rid of all dissent, by concentrating all that power in one person's hands, has he built a system that's truly strong? Or has he created something that just looks powerful, but is actually incredibly brittle? A system with no feedback loop, no way to correct itself before it's too late.